Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to the June 22nd, 2021 Board of Health meeting. Just a quick note, this agenda is subject to change and includes those items reasonably anticipated by the chair to be discussed at the meeting. Not all agenda items, in fact, may be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So I guess it's about 6:08. And Mark, looks like you're the citizen here. Any comments, concerns?
Thank you. Good evening, Mark Sony. A concerned citizen, but then again, a regular speaker here.
Yes, you are.
I'm glad the chairman's got as his profession patience to have with me. Okay, and yeah, I just wanted to say, homebound, Mr. Berman, thank you again. Many thanks. We're all set here, and the state is now doing well. And as of the day, it's positively and the infection rates and everything. It's all below 40. Positivity rates down at 34%. So that's a good thing. And I'm gonna make it even quicker for you, because I know it's a long agenda. And my dad's home. My dad is in the hospital bed. He's laying down, resting comfortably. And he got discharged by a VNA nurse because he's in good health right now for his age. That means I did not do a good enough job of keeping him happy. So he's now having more fun, and we're joking around. And I cooked up his best cup of coffee, you told me, and everything's perking up. Thank you.
Good. All right. Thanks, Mark. Anybody else? No? All right. Well, I'd like to introduce Sergeant Ed Berman, who heads up the COVID task force in our town and is doing an awesome job. Commonly, I refer to him as Superman. What do you got for us this week, Superman?
So, hi, everyone. So I have some data I want to share with you. So as you know, we formed a 7-town collaborative for vaccines. It's been going extremely well. Just so you know, we have to, this is the last week of the clinics this week in Westboro, but preliminary, we had a meeting this afternoon. Preliminary, it looks like in the last 6 weeks, we have vaccinated 16,000 people. The number I was like, really? We did that many? But yeah, so the numbers were huge, very successful collaborative. I am going to share my screen with you real quick. And let me do that. And can you all see that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the collaborative. These are numbers are as of June 15th. At our next meeting, I'll be able to give you more final numbers once we wrap up this particular clinic in Westboro. But some of the interesting things, if you really look here, is, for example, we're looking at our population in Ashland of about 19,700. And if you look here by age group, so you see here our 12 to 15-year-olds, we're at 37%. And then the 16 to 19-year-olds at 74%. That's our high school population. And you'll see our 20 to 29-year-olds about 67%. But the real big number here for us, which is where we wanted to be, was in our over 75 population. We're well over 95% of those people have been fully vaccinated. So, and you'll see here, we're pretty consistent with the towns, with the other towns in our collaborative. But one of the other things that we learned today is that other towns around us, not in our collaborative, their numbers are actually lower than ours. So we know that this collaborative with the other 6 towns was a huge success, and we are going to keep things going with that. So yeah, I'll stop my share here so everyone can see each other again. But I just thought that data was really interesting. And obviously at our next meeting, those numbers will be even higher. Yeah. Can I answer any questions on that before I keep going? No? Okay. So part of the collaborative. So what we are doing now, we're wrapping up this week. We've notified the DoubleTree that this will be our last week there. We will have some vaccine available. In the meantime, if there's anybody that is having difficulty finding any, for example, CVS, Walgreens, or at their doctor's offices. So we will have some available if people cannot find it or need a second dose. Also, I know a lot of people from our community watch these meetings. If anybody loses their vaccine card, they can contact me at the COVID hotline at 508-532-7900, and I can reproduce those cards in the event somebody loses it. For example, we had somebody that was traveling last week and couldn't find their card, called me, and I'm able to reproduce those with the lot numbers and everything else that they might need. So just as a community service that is available. Also, as part of our collaborative, what we are doing is we are already pre-planning in the event that the FDA approves Pfizer for the 3 to 12-year-olds. If that's the case, what we're doing right now, everybody, is we're identifying schools over the summer in our 7 towns that are air conditioned so that we can run clinics for that age group and their families in some of those buildings. We're also planning for early October for a drive-through flu vaccine clinic, which more to follow on that. So there's a lot of things in the works in that respect. I'm also happy to report right now we only have 1 active COVID case in Ashland. And the other thing I do want to report is that we have had 5 breakthrough cases. So what a breakthrough case is somebody that is fully vaccinated beyond that 14 days of the second dose and have become positive. So those numbers are very consistent for a population our size. That's obviously a very low statistic. What's interesting about the 5 is that all 5 had multiple exposures from a household member. So they're in a house where somebody was positive and continued to get exposed over and over again. The other thing that I can report, though, is that all 5 had extremely mild symptoms to almost no symptoms at all. So again, not unusual for the breakthrough cases. They are to be expected, but we will be keeping an eye on that trend also. That's pretty much my quick report for you for this week, unless I can answer any questions.
Just one from me, not that I want to keep you on this forever and a day, but it seems as though they're going to probably be suggesting booster shots for these variants that are coming over. Not that you have to plan for that, because I'm sure you don't even have the vaccine, but any talk about that?
Yeah, so right now there is a study group out right now of a bunch of people. There's a study group, and what they are doing is monthly they're going in for blood work and they're checking to see if they have antibodies and the amount of antibodies they have. So there's no recommendation yet. We're kind of envisioning we actually talked about this today at our meeting. They're actually envisioning 2 potential things, either just automatically getting a booster maybe annually, or there'll be a finger stick and quick antibody test. If you have antibodies, you don't need a booster. And if you don't, we just don't know which way it's going to go yet.
Right. Yeah, I think they have to determine how long they think the vaccine is going to provide protection. So
right. Well, if you think back, Ron, what, 25 years ago when the Hep B vaccine came out. Remember, it was a series of 3 shots. Yeah. If you remember way back then, they thought everyone was going to need a booster in 5 years, and they're seeing people 25, 30 years out still have antibodies and don't need any kind of booster.
Right. No, I hear you. So, all right. Well, it's great that you're planning for that as well. So, and you're still kind of the town's.
I'm running around. Yeah.
Every
day it's something.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not leaving for this.
No, I'm here for the foreseeable future for now.
Well, thank you for everything that you continue to do for the town. It's awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Di? Barbara? Bernadette? Everybody good? Okay. All right. Moving on to
Mr. Chairman, Ron.
Yeah.
One quick one. Any news about the new its variant? Because it hit the state. Any news on that?
I personally, I don't know. I don't, Ed?
So what they're doing is anybody that's positive, they're doing random samplings across the state. So, let's say, for example, let's say today there were 100 positives. They might pull 5 of those and check for the variant, but they're saying that the vaccine is working against it anyway.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on to number 4 on our agenda, farmers market regulations pertaining to pets at the market. Steve, thank you for being patient. Steve is not only a Board of Selectmen, for those of you who don't know, he also heads up the farmers market. So do you want me to, I would turn it over to you unless you want me to give a preface, but I think you can do that better than I can.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ron. I just, just to acknowledge Steve Mitchell, I serve on the select board. And just to modify Ron's statement, I'm one of a team of people that run the farmers market. My 2 colleagues are with me tonight, Florence Seidel and Rob Muhlenbeek. And so it's really a team that's put the farmers market on for, this is our 10th year of having a farmers market. So to get to the point of tonight's discussion, and I'm going to quickly turn it over to Rajit, because it really is going to, fall on our health director and our Board of Health to make a determination here. But essentially on our opening day, Rajit brought to our attention the fact that dogs, or I don't know if it's specifically dogs, but pets in general, in areas where there is food prep, food serving, food consumption, is against the state's regulations. So over the last couple of weeks, I've had several conversations with Rajit. I've sent him some information regarding the fact that there's dozens, if not hundreds, of restaurants around the Commonwealth that allow dogs in their outdoor dining spaces. It leads us to say one of 2 things. There's either waivers that are available from boards of health, or it's being ignored by boards of health. So I can't speculate on either one. So at this point, I would just turn it over to Rajit to kind of frame the issue, certainly much better than I can.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry first, I know I had some internet issues. I was late today. I'm sorry for that.
No problem.
Yes, so myself and Tom, did see dogs on the farmers market. And if we go with the FDA food code, animals are prohibited, so that was one reason that why we bring it to the team on day 1. And the next one was also the next farmers market for the 10th year was also there, just to see what's going on. So Chair and other board members, my recommendation on this, and I have discussed this with Mr. Steve, that the solution that we have looked, that if we cornered off all the food vendors to one side and prohibit the animals that side, that will be fine, So that'll be my recommendation to the board. But now it's board's decision. But if we just put all the food vendors on one side and corner that area, that'll be great,
So just to to clarify, what Rajit is recommending is confining the ready-to-eat vendors in a section of the market that abuts where our shed is located. So if we were to be facing our shed, to the right of the shed would be an area where we would confine the ready-to-eat vendors.
Okay. Steve, are you happy with that? Does that work for you?
I think, well, it's not a question of happy or dissatisfied.
Well, no, I mean,
I think it's something that we recognize that this is the regulations of the state. We don't dispute that. And is this a reasonable accommodation for the farmers market? I think it is.
Okay.
Well, can I say something too? Steve and I have been at the farmers market for a long time, and I have organized. We've had dogs and advertised dogs at the farmers market all those years. We've always said in all our advertisements that we public, in newspapers and e-blast, that we are a dog-friendly farmers market. And we've had dog events, organized, full with parades and shows and things and all close in we've never had any comments from anybody, including Tom, who's been at the market for years, has never said anything. Yeah. So I think, I personally, maybe Steve is happy, but I don't know how we would exactly organize to keep the dogs away from the ready-to-eat food vendors. I mean,
actually, Rob, you interrupted me, and I was about to get to that point. So, right?
Okay. All right. Sorry.
So, in terms of complying with Rajit's recommendation, personally, I have no issue with that. What ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't believe that we're able to police everything that goes on at the farmers market, other than placing those vendors in a specified area based on your recommendation. I mean, Rob is correct. We have had for years events dedicated to dog day, and we've been dog friendly farmers market from day one. Now, I can't speak as to what transpired in the past. I'm not going to suggest that Tom said this or didn't say that. I have no idea. No, I can't speak to what happened with the prior health director. So we're here today, and
okay.
And thank you, sir. And absolutely, and one thing I cannot say about the past, but this is something very important when food safety is involved. My other issue is, now I know the farmers market is a town event, but tomorrow, if one of our restaurants do the same, and if we don't look into this, we won't be able to regulate anything regarding that. And
so can I just clarify one thing, Rajit? This is it's not a town event in the same way, let's say Ashland Day is a town event. Ashland Farmers Market is part of a 501c3 organization. We operate our market during certain part of the year at certain parts of the day on Saturdays, but we're not an official town event.
Got it. So yeah, sorry for that, but thanks for the clarification. But this will be from my side. I know this topic is very debatable, I have dealt with this in the past, but I felt this is my duty, as an employee to bring this out, as this is in the regulation. I know very recently we have adopted, this was July 2019, that all the towns and cities in Massachusetts was directed to adopt the 2013 FDA food code, but prohibiting animals around food was in 99 food code 2. So I don't know what happened, and I cannot talk about the past, but this is where we are. And I wanted to bring it to the board, and yourself, and find a solution for it. That was my goal. And tomorrow cover everybody, from any sort of liability or any disease that can arise from this, So that was my whole goal on this,
How many vendors are we talking about, Steve?
So typically, I mean, it's going to vary, Diane, from anywhere from, 2, 3, 4. And it depends on, some of the events that we have. We may have more ready-to-eat vendors, meaning somebody that, customer is going to go to a vendor, buy a plate and consume it on site, either at a table or walking through the market. So it varies week to week. Rob could probably tell you more specifically, week to week.
Well, what I was gonna say is, I don't go to a lot of farmers market, but even when you go to like a fair, a lot of times the food vendors are in the same area. So I don't know if it's just changing your setup just a little bit. So, if we're talking about 3 or 4 vendors, it shouldn't be changing too much of your layout. I wasn't thinking.
It really isn't. I think it's more moving possibly 1 or 2 vendors at the most. It really isn't, from my perspective.
Could you clarify? Could I ask for a clarification? Does this mean that a person who brings a dog cannot go to a ready-to-eat food vendor with the dog? They've got the dog. They have no other. That means that they can shop. They can buy ready to eat. Does that mean coffee? Does that mean lemonade? Does that mean?
I would think it would mean anything that they can go there, but there should be appropriate signage. But that's the whole point of this whole thing, would be to keep the dogs away from where the food is, so that at least there's some separation. Is that correct, Raj?
We have the areas where we sell the food, and like Steve said, that's about 2 to 5 vendors. But then we also have a picnic area, which is, in front of the music, where people sit. So that means, those people cannot be there either. So that's another area of the market that would need to be restricted.
Yeah.
I will also say that there's a separation, and I understand. Rajit has explained the regulations to me, but realize that there's also separation between the food vendor, the preparation, and the serving, just like there was separation during COVID. We had very specific protocols to separate the vendors and the product from the customer. And so it's in my mind, it's a similar dynamic.
Yeah, I would suggest, and I don't know if that's possible, but when I talked to Rajit the first time this came up, that he was willing at that time to talk to the board, and the board could potentially give a waiver for the farmers market. So I don't know, a total waiver. So in other words, not try to resolve it, so 2 options, in other words. Yeah, I don't know if that's an option for you, if other towns have done something similar. If you can look into that, or that will be the simplest for us, clearly. If that cannot be done, I guess we have to go with a more drastic.
If we could just actually have Raj answer the question, because I think I know where I would personally go with this, but I want to know what the law says, because if we're talking about food preparation area, where they're making hamburgers or steak and cheese or whatever they're cooking, preparing, they're making you food and selling you food. To me, that's a lot different than somebody sitting at a picnic table next to your friend and eating a sandwich. So I think there's clarification that we need from Raj. So if Raj, if you could just answer that.
Yes, please. So, at least where the food is prepared, that is very important. Again, I know from somebody who's running the market, from their perspective, it's difficult, but it's hard from us as food safety guys. First day of the market, now I have to bring this. Myself and Tom saw a dog doing his business in front of 2 food vendors. It was very hard for us to see that on the grass, and he did clean up. Now, if that same person go touch the produce and buy food, and there can be contamination. So that's my concern. And that's the reason we brought this up, and now it's the board.
People use it. Or not us.
I mean, I think if you can segregate the food vendors who are preparing food and just put up a sign that says no dogs beyond this point, I think that would satisfy the regulation, and then people can still bring their animals to the event. Because like you said, I mean, if there's a restaurant here in town, you're not going to go into the kitchen area with your animal. You might sit outside and, you know, take your food out. You know, we have a couple takeout places. You might sit outside, but you're not going to bring them in. So I think that's kind of the same idea as if you, I mean, if and we're talking about, you know, 3 or 4 vendors, I think, you know, you can very easily accommodate the law without getting a waiver.
Right.
I don't know what other farmers markets do. I don't know if they separate their vendors as well.
Yeah, I don't know either, Diane, other than, and I don't know if the law, and Rajit's going to need to answer this for us, whether the law accommodates a waiver. The way I read the regulation, there's nothing in there that provides for that capacity. So, you know, it leads me to believe that most communities and local boards of health ignore it rather than deal with it.
That is true, sir. You know, that was the same thing I said. You know, this is not very debatable. You know, this is over the years, and at least for 12 years, I'm dealing with food safety in Massachusetts. You know, that this been a topic of debate. My whole thing was, and why I recommend this, that if we do that separate, we'll be complying with the regulation. You know, so I mean, we don't have to worry any further if that can be done. You know, so.
Can you try it and see if you can accommodate and see if the system works before you, I mean, whether there is a waiver or not, but before you even entertain asking for one?
Yeah, yes, we can. I guess the one question I have is if we have signage, you know, what distance away from a food vendor should that animal be?
I can check on that, sir. You know, I don't think so there is anything in the code, but I can look around, you know.
Okay. So. Yeah, I think it's workable. I mean, it's not, certainly not something that is going to, I think, put undue burden on how we operate. It might tweak things a little bit, but the reality is we're not, neither Florence or Rob or myself are able to police this. We're really depending on, I think, the vendors and the pet owners to police themselves here.
I think that's the idea. If we could sit down, like Diane says.
He's talking.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I hope separate the preparation part from the consuming part. So that I think that would be the thing we can tell the vendors maybe. No dogs anywhere behind the tables where they prepare the food at all. That's a workable solution. Yeah. And then if the dogs can still walk around and sit next to their people eat their food like they do at home, right. Then that may be okay.
Yeah, no, I think Diane was spot on, but I think also, I think in Raji's defense, I don't think you can have, people with dogs go right up to the vendor with food. I think that circumvents the intent of the law. Not that, not that I know that, but, I think that's why Diane's exactly right. I had that on a list to ask. She, asked that question about, appropriate signage. And I don't expect you to sit there and police everybody, but in somehow, at least, not everybody follows the speed limit either, but not everybody, gets reprimanded for that. So I at least would feel comfortable with hopefully doing something that at least we're trying to address the law and do the right thing. Exactly what Steve said. I don't think any of us on the Board of Health we don't want to ban dogs from the area. That we would be the most unpopular Board of Health ever. That's what I think. But
Steve will kill me.
Guaranteed you would be, guaranteed.
Yeah, so it sounds, like, Rajit has put thought into it and he's seen this before. And, if he seems happy with it, he knows the law, I would certainly do it. Di, what are your thoughts? or just talk?
Well, I mean, I think, I think most of you know that I'm a, huge animal lover, and my dog comes with me everywhere. And I agree. I personally, I would not take my animal up to the food vendor, because if you grab somebody's hot dog or cheeseburger or something, I'd feel really bad. But I mean, it just, honestly, the hair in general, I just don't think it's sanitary. So I think people would respect it. I think people will understand what's going on. And I also think, like you said, you put a sign up, no dogs beyond this point. If somebody goes over there and you see them, you say, "Excuse, could you just go here?" Well, your, friend or whatever grabs your burger for you. I mean, I think they'll respect the fact that you're trying to keep it sanitary for them.
Yeah.
I think we have to say that is by order of the Board of Health. Otherwise, there's going to be so much pushback. Last year, when we didn't allow dogs at the market, every day there were several dogs that came anyway, and we had to stop them. And there was the one thing, the loudest cry, the loudest complaint all last year was about not being able to bring their dogs to the market because.
Right, and it's not that people, just make sure you preface it correctly to people. It's not that they're not allowed at the farmer's market. It's they're not allowed in the food purchase area, food preparation area, because I really do think when you explain it to people appropriately, I don't think anyone, and probably nobody on this meeting, would question the fact that it is really the right thing to do. It's just a change, and change is hard. So I think if you make every effort to try your hardest to not allow them, if one squeaks in by accident, you kindly say something. But I mean, I think you're trying to meet the letter of the law, just like you do every day, every week, excuse me, at the market.
Yeah, personally, I think this is reasonable, and certainly doable. I just want to clarify: we don't do burgers at the farmers market. And I love burgers, but we're much more upscale than burgers at the farmers market. So.
And last thing I want to say,
Can the Board of Health put together a few sentences that we can put on a sign?
Good. Yeah.
With the right wording, something that you guys would like to see, and then we can advertise that in our e-blast and put a sign up on the entrance of the farmers market. Per Board of Health, the new.
Your wording.
Your wording.
Yeah. So I assume you're going to take a vote to address this in some form or fashion. I don't know, but unless you just want to direct us to move forward in a certain fashion. I do have one more question for Rajit, and it goes to products that are on the ground.
Yes, sir.
And I know that was a concern of yours, I believe the first week as well. So if we can have some clarification of that also, so that we can make sure our vendors are well informed.
Yes, sir. And I can send documentation to you on that too. So now this is in the food code too. Any food material, I know they say that these are cases, they all that stuff. So anything that gets under the case, supposedly now they're gonna load one case onto the other, any insect, any dirt, it goes to the next container. I can send you documentation, but it's in the code that unless it's a concrete surface, it's paved, you cannot put anything on the ground that have food in it. And that's valid to any containers, everything. And my explanation is any dirt that gets under anything, any insects, anything, and when they load it, it goes on the top of the other container. And that's the whole rationale, to cover the food, because anything that's gonna come over it, it's gonna fall into that,
Yeah, if you could send that to us. I don't think, it's a major problem at the market, but I think you pointed out at least one scenario at the first week. So if we could have that information, we can help to at least to police that.
Absolutely, I will do that, and I'll send to all the market managers,
And Ron, if I can just add, Steve, I mean, I would say for the direction for the board is we don't need to vote on it because you're meeting the letter of the law. So I mean, unless you're looking to unless you're having an issue with meeting it and looking for a waiver, we wouldn't have to vote because you're not. I think it's more of a discussion. I think Ron, if you agree.
Yeah,
no, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so let's just to clarify then, where the board is looking for the market to place our ready-to-eat vendors in one area and provide signage regarding dogs beyond a certain point. Is that correct?
Yeah, and Rajit said he'll try to get you a reasonable distance. Can't see that it would be that far.
Okay.
10 feet, whatever it is. So, Barbara and Bernadette, do you have anything you'd like to say or add?
No, actually, whatever Steve, I agree with whatever Steve said. I mean, as long as we can put signposts or signs that maybe dogs shouldn't go beyond this or whatever regulations we come up with, I'm comfortable with whatever Steven said.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I just want to add is like to just make sure they add that the dogs should be on their leash, because something that we think it's obvious for so many other different places, and people are letting their dogs run around, and if you're trying to control them, if they're on a leash, it's much better.
Absolutely.
We have we do not allow unleashed dogs at the market. In fact, it's a bylaw in town. We have a leash law, so we're pretty careful about that. Very careful.
So I was a little confused with your summary, Steve. Do we really still have to put all the vendors together in one spot, and then, or can we just make that regulation for each particular tent? A tent, not all tents, we don't have always all the tents together that are making food. Sometimes we have some people that want electricity in that area. Now, is that necessary for your requirements, or can we just tell the people that are making food in the tent, that no dogs anywhere close to the food preparation area? And it seems like two separate things, all the vendors together and keeping them away from the food preparation area.
I think if they're segregated, I think that's easier for everybody. If logistically it's not possible, then I think we would try to, make an accommodation for that. But I would at least try it that way. Do you agree, Di?
I don't know how we can do that.
Well, again, it was a suggestion to do it that way to make it easier on you for, so to speak, policing at your event. I mean, if you feel that you can keep each dog owner, in the center of the market, and they won't approach, I just don't know that you're even going to be able to, so to speak, police that. So that was just a suggestion to have them all in the same area, just because you could say no dogs beyond this point, and that's like one and done versus 4 different vendors you're trying to. So, I mean, that's why, again, I said, I don't think that we need to vote on it, because you might come up with another idea tomorrow.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you guys can, brainstorm on and different ideas. I mean, I think what the letter of the law is, and you be creative. But I mean, obviously you'll be working with Raj,
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I think, to go to Rob's point, if we can start with providing signage at the specific vendors and monitor that. And Rajit, you weigh in on this. I mean,
I mean, sir, it need to be controlled. So that's my point. And I want to say this, it's in the code for a reason. I know some changes can be tough, but I mean, this is in food code for a reason. It's just not written there for just like that, So, I mean, I am concerned with the food safety there, the incidents I saw. And we are trying to work, for a solution, So hopefully that will work,
Okay. So again, to clarify, then, it sounds like you're giving us flexibility in terms of basically managing the signage and managing those specific vendors. Is that correct?
And if Mr. Ron, he's saying he can do that, then it's up to the market managers to make sure that doesn't happen, So, I mean, if he can make that possible, I'll be okay with it,
Okay.
So, Steve, what logistically, what would be the difference in getting the 2 to 4 vendors in the same spot and basically proposing what I think Rajit initially and Diane had said with just making a sign versus each individual food vendor having it in front of them? Is it water? Is it electricity?
It's really, Ron, just modifying the layout that we construct on a weekly basis. And, you know, it's, from my perspective, and Rob can argue with me, but I don't think it's a major disturbance to make an adjustment as far as our layout is concerned. But, you know, if that is your preference, I guess what I'm asking for is something more definitive. I mean, if you want us to put vendors all in one area, you know, from my perspective, that's fine.
I just from a personal standpoint, like all the members to weigh in, I think that is a more feasible and reasonable way to do things. I completely agree with Diane. I think it's going to be tough if you have, you know, a relatively large area, but you have 20 vendors at a place and you have one down one end and one at the other end and 2 in the middle. It just seems it's like it would be very difficult to do. I don't expect you to stand there all day, but I think if people get accustomed to seeing these signs and they know the food vendors are in this area and that, hey, you know what, I'm not supposed to bring my dog up. Like Diane said, if somebody slips through every once in a while, you know, that's going to happen. But at least I feel as a board that we're at least trying to make reasonable accommodations with hopefully without too much imposition on the vendors and too much imposition on the people that have dogs. And I do think that people would respect that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
How far do you think we have to keep the people away from the serving table?
But that Rajit's going to try to look into that.
Okay.
Okay.
We won't be able to do the layout until we have that.
So 2 things that we need from Rajit are, you know, this concept of distance from the vendor, and then also the regulation about product on the ground as well.
Absolutely. So I don't think so. You know, food code is a very lengthy, lengthy topic, but I have not read anything regarding any distance related to that. That we have to probably work it out, you know, some reasonable distance. But the other part, I will definitely be able to send it to you as soon as we finish this meeting, you know, so that I will be able to do that.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Board of Health, and welcome Bernadette and Barbara to local government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good to see you. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah.
Thank
All right,
you.
we'll all see you next Wednesday night.
Right.
We'll see you next Wednesday as well. All right, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is a septic waiver for 7 Old Central Turnpike, and I believe this is Dan
McIntyre representing the homeowner.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can
Why
I
don't
share
you
my
fill us
screen
in,
there?
please?
Someone's gonna have to enable me to share my screen.
Okay. Laura, I think that's you, unless I do that. Share screen? No, that's not me. Laura?
Whoever the host is, I'm not sure who the host is.
Yeah, I think tonight that was Laura.
Yep, it's Laura.
Yeah.
Laura, you there?
I couldn't unmute. I was here. So let me share the screen. Hold on.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Dan, you're co-host.
All right.
Thank you.
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
So this is a 3-bedroom house constructed in 1955 approximately. It's served by a existing septic tank right behind the house, which goes off to a leach pit in the backyard. There's really no records on this system. I can't tell whether this was the original 1950 system or it's been modified over the year. But in any event, the homeowners are experiencing some problems with it and they'd like to replace it. So we were able to design a Title V compliant system consisting of a septic tank, pump chamber, and 3 leaching trenches using the conventional stone and pipe system. And we did size it for the 3 bedrooms. They're not expanding the house. So as I mentioned, it is Title V compliant, but we are asking for some local waivers from the Ashland regulations due to the lot size and the topography of the lot. Over on the left-hand side of the backyard, it's very steep there. There's a stone retaining wall in here. So it would have been very difficult to move the system up in there. So we placed it right in the level area of the backyard. So the waivers that we're requesting is related to the need for 2 perk tests. We were able to get 2 test pits in, but we disturbed most of that area and we really couldn't get a second percolation test in. We also really don't have the size to make the leach field 50% larger for the garbage grinder requirement, so we're asking for that waiver. And the 10-foot trench spacing, we're asking for that waiver also based on the limited area available for this system. So with that, I can open it up to questions.
So with the first perk test, that was where it needed to be. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first perk test is right in almost the center of the system.
Okay. Yeah, and the other 2 you're looking for 6 feet instead of 10.
Yes.
For the between the trenches. And I'm sorry, what was the other waiver?
The other one was that the Ashland regulations require us to design for a garbage grinder.
Okay.
So that makes the leach field 50% bigger.
Okay.
Ron, if you want, if there's no other questions, I can take a stab at a motion.
Yeah. Go for it, Di.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve for 7 Old Central Turnpike waivers from 3037, allowing the use of 2 percolation tests versus 3, right? Allow 1 percolation test versus 2. Waiver from 30311, not to design for a garbage disposal, with a deed recording placed on the property stating no garbage disposal is to be allowed while this septic system is in use.
Yeah.
And 303-14, trench spacing to be 6 feet, 6 feet versus the required 10 feet.
Anybody, so before anybody attempts to second that, Di, is there any type of deed restriction like on the last septic waiver that says there can't be more rooms in the house that we need to consider, or no?
No, as far as I am aware, and again, the engineers can, as far as I know, that would be only for Title V. So
okay.
We would have the garbage disposal deed recording on the property.
Okay. All right. Anybody second that? Barbara or Bernadette? Can I second that, Di?
Yeah, I'll second.
I know Barbara just did.
Okay, second it. Okay. Further discussion? No? All in favor? Aye, Brian?
Hi, Diane.
Hi, Barbara.
Okay. Looks like that motion passes 4-0. So thanks, Dan.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
will you be creating the language for that deed recording, or?
I guess that doesn't need it. Is that right, Di?
Yeah. Yep, Laura will get it to you.
Okay, great, appreciate it, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks, Diane. And next up would be, sorry, the name here. It's, Tom, right?
No, it's Eric Dickinson.
Eric.
Oh, Eric, I'm sorry. Eric,
Okay.
for the waiver for 40 Cross Street. Thanks for being
Can I share my screen?
I made you a co-host, Eric.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
There it is. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. So like Dan's, what we have here is we have a existing three bedroom house. This house on the north side has a cesspool that's also in failure. It's backing up actually into the house. So it's not a good situation. This part of town on Cross Street doesn't have town water. So there's wells. There's a well across the street. There's actually two of them. This well right here is actually not being used anymore, but it was never decommissioned. It's the same homeowner. So you have to look at it as it also has a 100-foot buffer. There's the well they're using right now. I'm not showing the house or anything in this, but so there's that 100-foot buffer for the well in use. And that's the 100-foot buffer for the well that's not in use. There's also a well to the north of the property up here. That 100-foot buffer right here, we're just outside of it with the system. And then the 40 Cross Street, the applicant's well is actually shared with a neighbor. The buffer is over here. So they gain their water from the neighbor's well, which is kind of unusual. They have an easement. What I don't show on this plan is there's a pool behind the house, so we didn't have any room there. There's some ledge here. That's why I pushed it up against the 100-foot buffer. I try to keep it as far away, but I don't think they're going to be able to get that out of there, the installers. What I ended up doing here is to avoid a pump, we use a DEP approved alternative system called an Elgin. That's one of the variances. We go to 2.9 feet. They're allowed to go to 2 feet. So if we had not used this type of system, it would have required $7,000, $6,000 to $7,000 pump for the homeowner. Another variance that I'm requesting is we did not design the system for a garbage grinder. As you can see, we wouldn't have had any room here because it'd be 50% larger. The Elgin system, the trenches are spaced 6 feet apart as approved by DEP. The town of Ashland requires 10 feet. So we're asking for a variance to that regulation. This type of system, someone asked on the last presentation, this Elgin system does require a deed notice that since you're getting a 40% reduction in size with this type of system and you're getting closer to groundwater, they do want it's going to have a deed notice recorded at the registry that says the house is going to stay a 3-bedroom. If they want to add bedrooms, they have to replace this system with a conventional system. So this house will never have more than 3 bedrooms, and it's carried along with it's transferred as the property is transferred. Also, it will have a garbage disposal, no garbage disposal deed restriction as well.
Eric, if I can just ask you when you're right there, is that the 310 CMR 15.284, which is
yes.
the seasonal groundwater? That's the deed recording, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. that was a question that I was going to have for you guys. If we're going to be, if I have more of these in town, say we want to use the Elgin. The Elgin is approved by the DEP for local upgrade approval. These aren't really variances since it's approved by them. So if we have an Elgin system and we don't have any of these other local variances, could Tom or the director approve those without a hearing? I mean, that might be a question for another time, but I know some towns, since it is approved by the DEP, the alternative system, you could go as close as 2 feet. It's not really a variance. You know, I don't know if maybe it's another discussion for another time, but it's just a question I have. Maybe something we can talk about at another time.
Sure, I'd have to sort of run it by Tom. Yeah, I don't know enough about it.
Okay.
So, right.
So I could go through the variances if you want, and just each, and the local upgrade approval. The first one being no garbage disposal. We didn't size it for a garbage disposal. The second being the spacing in between the trenches, and then the state regulation to groundwater.
Anybody like to make a motion?
If nobody, I can take a stab at it. I'd like to make a motion that we approve for 40 Cross Street, Ashland Board of Health Regulations 303-11 to design the septic system without a garbage disposal. 303-14 distance between trenches to allow the spacing to be 6 feet versus 10 feet. And also local upgrade approval from DEP for 310 CMR 15.284 to allow the system to be installed 2.9 feet above seasonal high groundwater, with the condition that a deed recording be placed on the property stating no increase to design flow and bedroom count or room count, and that no garbage disposal is to be installed on the property while the septic system is in use.
Very well said. Any discussion from any of the other members? Barbara, Bernadette?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody want to second that?
I move the motion to second that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Okay, all in favor?
Diane, aye.
Hi, Barbara.
And just for the so the engineers that are on the meeting, it is, I believe that 310 CMR is no increase to design flow or bedroom or room count, right? Did I say? Just to make sure the deed recording is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Diane. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the agent and director's agenda. So apparently we have 2 talent bank forms, I guess, that we're considering. I don't know if, Rajit has any more information. I don't even see him on here anymore. Oh, there he is. Rajit, any information on, the updating this? I know we have a meeting apparently next Wednesday with the Board of Selectmen regarding the opening.
Mr. Chair, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, there was a lot of background noise.
I guess we have do you have, anything to add as far as the update for the potential candidates for the opened spot on the Board of Health? I guess we have 2 talent bank, applications, and we're going to have a meeting next Wednesday with the select.
I think we received 1.
Oh, I thought there was another one. No? Okay, so I'm wrong. I thought Laura had said we received another one.
We definitely had one. I guess there was another candidate in that there was a discussion about, somebody was interested. That's what I know. But I guess, yeah, and it's on the select board's agenda, yes,
Just to let the board know, I know it's part of the next meeting, but the select board is going to set the agenda tomorrow. So I can let you know what time. They have a light agenda, so I'm assuming it will be pretty close to the beginning, but I'll let you know as soon as I post that agenda for them.
And Diane, this is a procedural question for you, because I wasn't really quite sure how it worked, when Barbara was on there. Is the correct procedure that somebody makes a motion to appoint somebody to the board, or is there room in the regulations, if there's more than one person, to hear both people and then have the boards, vote on both candidates at the same time, or that's not how it works?
Well, when the talent bank forms are given to you, obviously, you review the information provided, and obviously individually you can contact the person or persons interested in the vacant position to, so to speak, interview them. But even at the meeting, if people had questions that they wanted to ask the questions publicly, that's the form to ask questions. And then the chair is Joe Magnani currently, so he will likely ask the Board of Health for a recommendation. And then that's when somebody from the board would, make a recommendation to the select board. Kind of what we did last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, okay.
Likely, Joe will probably reach out to you just to coordinate prior to the meeting, Ron.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, and I'll buzz you to just run me through the process, but okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Diane, do you have anything on B, the public health excellence grants for shared public health services?
Raj is actually running with all of this tonight, so I'm going to pass it right off to him.
And Dr. Ron, my bad, I thought you asked a random question. Now, what we have put this on agenda about the health department applications, that's our internal applications.
Okay.
I mean, the food applications, residential kitchen applications.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I misread it then. I just assumed it was for the open application. So
no,
I'm going to let you take this part.
Thank you. So
Sure.
these are our internal applications, that when we renew the permits, if some new establishment is coming in, so this is for that. And we're going to be making some changes to those applications, as some of the applications are old, and that's what it is like, we're going to be making some changes to the application, and I can definitely make the board aware of those changes once we have that in place. Second part, the Public Health Excellence Grant, that's also called Fill in the Gap Grant, so the Ashland is part of it. This was, before me, we got this grant where Hudson is the lead community, and we are part of it. There are 8 towns in this grant. Most part, the hiring should be starting soon for these services under this grant. They're going to be hiring a public health director, public health nurse, and epidemiologist that we don't have one in the area. And they're going to be a coordinator, and I already said an epidemiologist and an inspector too. So this process is starting. It's going to probably take 2 to 3 months for the hiring process, and then the service is going to start. The public health nurse is just mainly for Ashland, Maynard, and Millis, so because we don't have a full-time public health nurse, so the public health nurse is mainly for these 3 communities. And as I get more information on this, I'll pass it on to the board. But if you have any questions on this, please ask me.
Okay.
The third item, please.
Raj.
Yes, please. Yes,
I was just gonna tell Tom Ryder.
Yes, please.
You're more than welcome to stay on the meeting, but you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you.
Thank you.
I was doing some work as I'm listening in. So.
Oh, no worries. I just wanted to let you know. Sorry to jump in, Ron, but I just wanted to let Don know. You can
All right.
stay on.
Thanks
We
for
love
saying
the
that.
company.
All right.
Thank you. Third item, we got another grant of $2,500 from MHOA. This is in addition to, I guess, around $28,000 odd dollars we got it earlier from them for COVID. Next item is the abandoned pools. We are working to get many of, as many we can. And I guess we are working on 3 abandoned pools right now in Ashland. One of them is already treated by the Central Mosquito Control Program. And one should be scheduled soon. So we are just trying to get any of the abandoned pools treated for mosquitoes. E item, we have a new food vendor. This place is going to be where the Madras market is, it's on Pond Street near Market Basket. There used to be a full-time Indian restaurant in this spot. So the owner, during COVID times, he converted into the retail store, but the kitchen is as it is, so he's renting out the kitchen, and this new Prakalia Foods is coming there, and we should be doing their pre-opening inspection soon. And if they pass, we'll be granting them a permit. Corner Spot, a lot of events going on, Tom Curran is coming out regularly to inspect that. And Farmers Market, I guess everybody's aware of the changes, or updates going on there.
Raj, you might want to just mention to Beth Reynolds the same concern about the farmers market, because of course you're allowed to have animals on Corner Spot property, but there should be a barrier, if you will. So might want to just mention it to Beth Reynolds, the Economic Development Director.
I will definitely do that, please. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Diane, just one procedural question. Since you look at the meeting minutes that we're supposed to approve, it's just you and I and Barbara. Can we just pass those on the consent agenda? You're muted. You're muted. Sorry.
For once, right? Sorry. So the board members technically and legally can vote on those minutes if they feel comfortable with, if they review them, even though they weren't sitting on the board.
Okay.
So if Bernadette and Barbara, Barbara wasn't at that meeting?
Yeah, she was at both.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you feel comfortable with, moving forward with the vote, I can make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Sure.
And one of you would need to second it.
Yeah.
Sure. So it's the meeting that we did not attend, right?
Correct. You can legally still vote on it.
Okay, I'll vote.
Okay. So do you want to second the motion, Bernadette?
Okay, I second the motion to vote.
Thank you.
Great. All in favor to pass the consent agenda?
Diane, aye.
Aye. Okay. Bernadette, you're in.
Aye, Bernadette.
Great. 4-0. Okay. All right. Anybody have anything that they need to chat about next time, or do we want to revisit the farmers market? I just want to remind everybody that we do need to meet next Wednesday, the 30th. And again, I will, I guess the only item on the agenda will be for the talent bank forms for a candidate for Board of Health. But just to go to the July 6th meeting, normally we, just because of everybody's schedule, normally in the past, we've only met once in July and once in August. And then obviously if we need another meeting, I don't know if the current board members feel comfortable doing that. And if you do, I was going to see if the board wanted to do the 13th for a meeting, because of course the 6th it's
holiday week. I don't know if people are away. So we could do the 13th, and if we needed another meeting that month, of course, we could do the 27th, but we could try to have one.
I think it's a good idea.
I like the idea.
Yeah, but I'll be away on the 13th.
On the 13th?
Yeah, I'll be away.
Okay.
Would the 20th be better for everybody? We can move it.
I'll be away from the 10th to probably 1st of August.
Huh, I'm jealous.
Don't be.
Okay, well, hopefully it's for good reasons, but
yeah.
All right, then, I mean, if everybody else is, we can meet on the 13th and give it a shot.
Yeah, 13 sounds good.
Okay.
And Ron, if we could, I would like to present a draft animal regulations update to the board.
Sure.
I've been working with Donna Walsh, who is our animal control officer / inspector. And we've taken Framingham's and we're reviewing those. She likes those. We're kind of in the process of formatting them. So I will get them to the board ahead of time, and maybe we can just have a discussion about it. And again, just for procedural, just for Bernadette and Barbara, or for everybody for that matter. Normally what we do is we have a public meeting and just talk about the regulations. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review them, make any suggested changes. And then at the following meeting, we would have a public discussion. We don't need to have a public hearing, but we'd have a public discussion, let our current animal vendors know, which actually wouldn't affect them. So I don't know if we have to notify them, but here or there, we would just have a public discussion for anybody from the public that wants to put in input. And then we could vote that night, or again, move it to another meeting. So it's a couple meeting process, but I'll just write up, some quick procedures just so everybody has them so they can follow along. So I will try to get those done for the next meeting.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Okay. Anyway, Bernadette, Rajit, Barbara, anything anybody else wants to see on the next meeting other than what Rajit's going to put on his agenda?
I just want to thank the board, I know a couple of tricky items here today, but thank you for all your support. And I apologize again, I was late, there was some internet connection issue at my laptop, so.
No need to apologize,
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And thanks for, I know you chatted with Steve, so that was nice to, know that you were already on that. So, and the other members of the farmers market.
Right, sir.
All right.
Are we going to have any further discussion about the farmers market, or not necessarily?
No, I'll, in case we want to chat about anything and review it, I can throw it on there. If there's any news to report,
Okay.
we can chat about it. And if, we see everything's going well, or, I'll probably make sure I get down there to the next one just to check it out.
Yeah, I was thinking of the same thing too. I was like, yeah. No, it doesn't harm to go see how everything is going.
Yeah, that's great.
Well,
So-
and even with that, if I can just add that even when, I think the board members know that when, there's an animal waiver or septic waiver or whatever the case may be, I mean, you absolutely have every right as a board member to go and inspect or go and look yourself before you, take these votes, because obviously your vote means a lot to these people. So feel free, if, again, I mean, specifically, I'm kind of thinking of animals, with the animal regulations. I mean, I'm a visual, I like to go and see it. So the same thing, you might want to go and take a peek at these things and just make sure that you feel comfortable. I would just never want anybody to take a vote when they don't feel comfortable with something.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Anybody like to make the best motion of the evening?
Let me try this.
There you go, Barbara. Yay. I'm going to mute.
Go ahead, Barbara.
So I'd like to make a motion to end the Board of Health meeting at 7:21.
All right. Anybody want to second that? Go ahead, Bernadette.
I'm on mute. I second that.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Diane, aye.
Diane, thank you.
Good job, Ron.
Rajit, thank you. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, board members. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
Take
everybody. All
Take
right.
care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good job, Ron.